Okay, the solo to Stairway to Heaven. Arguably the most analyzed, discussed, and dissected guitar solo in rock and roll history. And well, buckle in, because we're about to analyze and dissect it just a little bit more. When time after time, year after year, over 50 years after its creation, it continues to be touted as one of the greatest guitar solos of all time, still topping list after list of the greatest solos in rock and roll history, well, things like that tend to happen. Now, I've been teaching this solo and all of its little nuances to one of my online students recently, so it's been constantly rolling around in my head and under my fingers over the past couple of weeks. And then a couple of days ago on Reddit, maybe about a week ago, I read a post asking which intermediate guitar solo can you learn the most from that pretty much covers all the basics of soloing. I read that and I thought to myself, Stairway to Heaven. And then I opened up the comments of the post, and there, sitting right at the very top with the most upvotes, was Stairway to Heaven. Aha, vindicated, I thought. And then I thought, I must make a video about this. I've been picking apart this solo for weeks now, explaining every little nuance of it to my student and how incredibly well structured it is, with so many different techniques to learn and to master, all held within its 50-second runtime. There is a heck of a lot one can learn from this solo if you're a beginner or an intermediate soloist. As we go along here, I'm going to walk through it and teach you the solo, but we're going to dissect it and pull it apart as well. Show you the techniques that, like I said, make it the perfect intermediate guitar solo and will make you a better guitar player. Things like bends, full step bends, step and a half bends, two-step bends, and pre-bends, vibrato, bends with vibrato, quick bends with pull-offs, pinky bends, slides, scale runs, working outside the pentatonic box that this solo utilizes, string skips, rakes, possibly, playing in different positions on the fretboard, 4 to be exact, pull-offs and hammer-ons, pinky work, fret rolls, triplets, and finally speed. Have I missed anything? Now, of course, not every single soloing technique is used here, but all of the previously mentioned ones are, and it's a hell of a lot. Many of the essentials to good soloing. The only thing that I cannot teach you from this solo is how to create melody, the likes of which this solo has. And that is the true magic that make this solo so damn good. It's its own song within the song, what every great solo should be. All built out of the A minor pentatonic scale with one added note, and we'll get to that. You can sing and hum this solo. It doesn't need music behind it to make it musical. It's its own music. That's why Jimmy Page is Jimmy Page, and the rest of us mere mortals, despite whatever fretboard magic we can conjure up from time to time, are sitting in our bedrooms, or bedroom studios, I suppose. Jimmy was, it goes without saying, a really, really good guitar player, but it was his ear for melody that really puts him at another level. Very, very few guitarists and songwriters in history had a sense for melody in their playing and in their composing as strong as Jimmy Page did. That can't be easily taught, unfortunately. However, we can learn from him to make ourselves better guitar players, the same way that he learned from those who came before him. So that's about enough chit-chat, I think. Let's get started with this, shall we? Let's close in here a little bit and have a look at the solo to Stairway to Heaven. That is the first lick, of course, and we're in standard tuning, by the way, and we're working in the A minor pentatonic scale with one added note. So let's cover the A minor pentatonic first. 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. Now we're going to be adding one note to that, and there's a reason for that, and I'm going to get to that in a second. We're going to add a whole bunch of Fs. Right here, down here, up here, and up here. During different parts of the solo when we're in different positions. Now, the reason we're adding F notes to the minor pentatonic is this. That's what we're soloing over. A to G to F. A minor to G major to F major. Now, we're spending 25% of our time in A minor, 25% of our time in G major, and 50% of our time in F major. 25, 25, 50%. Now, the tonal center of this solo and the key of this solo is A minor, yet we're spending 50% of our time soloing in F major. So what to do to make this sound good? Well, add F notes into your A minor pentatonic. Now, I've been on forums and, you know, guys arguing left, right, and center, trying to figure out what exotic scale is he using here. Is he using the Dorian mode or the Aeolian mode, but only parts of it, you know, and on and on and on, and page after page. And, you know, Jimmy Page has said himself that, you know, he knew how he wanted to start this solo. And then he just went from there, and he went with it and went for it and created this solo. It wasn't this big pre-planned idea that he had that I'm going to sit down and I'm going to use the pentatonic, but I'm going to dip into the Aeolian mode or any other fancy mode, you know, or scale. He's simply adding F notes because he's soloing over F for half of the solo. And, you know, technically that F note is out of the A natural minor scale, which is this. There's the F. And there it is again. The only difference between the natural minor and the pentatonic are these two notes, the F and the B, right there. He never touches this B once within the solo. These chords, except for the G major, none of them have a B in them. And so he just avoids that B note right there and right here. Or where's the other B note? Right there. Right there. And so anyway, that's why he is using Fs and adding Fs to the minor pentatonic. So you put that in. You end up with that scale. It's kind of basically a pentatonic with one added note, and nothing really much more fancy than that. And so the first lick, a bend at the 7th fret of the G string, probably the most bent note in the history of music. In the A minor pentatonic, 7th fret, that D note up to an E. And that is, of course, how he starts this solo. Now, he takes that note, gets it up there, right to pitch. And you want to get to pitch every single time with your bends. And now we're going to cover bends briefly. Bending a note. Getting it to pitch every single time. Of course, we're not going to get it every single time, but that's the goal. Now, look at my fingers on the fretboard. I've got this big angle going here, you know, it's like a 45-degree angle in relation to the fretboard. You do not want to be around like this when you're bending notes. You want to be hugging the neck, you know, thumb over the top and a good grip on the neck, and, you know, a good angle going here. And, you know, you're not bending this with your finger. Your fingers are maybe doing 10% of the work here. It's all leverage with your wrist and forearm. And all these fingers are going up together. You've got your support fingers behind your main bending finger, which is your ring finger. You've got your middle finger on the fret behind it, and you've got your index on the fret behind that. And they're all going up together, supporting each other for the bend. Great to pitch every time, but remember, keep this angle and bend with your wrist and forearm, not just with your fingers. You know, like I said, you are bending somewhat with your fingers. Maybe about 10% of this effort is with fingers, but 90% is with this curl of the wrist and forearm. So there's the bend. Now, he gets that up there and he lets it sit for like a quarter of a second, right at pitch. And then he adds 3 or 4 little waggles of vibrato. Now, vibrato is just dipping, you know, dipping less than a quarter of a step. And then back to pitch again, just waggling that note. But you want even vibrato. You don't want to just get it up there and shake it willy-nilly, you know, just shake it. It's vibrato. It's not very good vibrato, but no one will ever accuse you of having good vibrato if that's the way you do it. But you want it nice and even, a nice even flow between the dips, you know. So a good thing to practice is practice that slow vibrato, and then speed it up, you know. And so anyway, bend. Add 3 or 4 dips of vibrato, and then we're string skipping down to the 5th fret of the high E with a slight rake. Sometimes I hear this and sometimes I don't, but you know, a little palm muted rake down to that note. Sometimes I listen to it and I'm like, he's not raking that at all. He's going straight to the note. But other times I hear this subtle little rake into that note. And now we're into the first scale run. And there's where we land on the F. So we're going 5 of the high E, 8 to 5 of the B string, up to 7 of the G. Picking every one of those notes, and then we're going to pull off that 7 off to 5. Up to 7 of the D, back to the G string for another pull off, and then a pull off on the D string from 7 to 5, and then on to that F note at the 8th fret of the A string. You can grab that 8 with your ring finger or with your pinky. And that is the first lick that we have to deal with. And so, you know, all the techniques, pull-offs, little rake, mixing pick notes with pull-offs, a little bit of pinky work there maybe, you know, bend, vibrato, you know, string skip, lots of little techniques in there to learn from just that one lick alone. Let's move on to lick number 2. Now, with this lick, we've got more bends to deal with. We've got some pinky work. We have pinky bends to deal with there. Here we have slides. We have that F note again. So we're jumping down here to the 8th fret of the B string, giving it a full step bend. Now the thing here, he lets the note sit for a split second before raising it. So you can hear that, what is that? That G note. Before he raises it, you can hear the note. And then he's getting his pinky underneath it on the 8th fret and hitting that twice. And now he's going to do a pinky bend on the 8th fret. Full step bend. Now the thing about doing a pinky bend is you really got to drop these 2 fingers, which were previously on the B string supporting your first bend. Drop them down now to the high E string to support your pinky bend. And then you're going to release that pinky bend off to the 5th fret for a double hit. Now, pinky bends are not easy to do, but he is doing a pinky bend in this. I've watched numerous videos of him playing this lick, and he's bending it with his pinky. So once you hit the double hit there at the 5th fret, the second one, you're immediately going to grab the 8 of the B string and slide it into 10. So you're barely hearing that second one before you're already on to the 8 of the B string and then sliding it into 10. And then after you slide it into 10, you're going to grab the 8 of the high E. Now you're going to do some more pull-offs. You're going to pull off 10 to 8, and then again on the B string, and then up that F note again here at the 10th fret. And now we've got a hammer on, 8 back to 10. So from the top. And that's it for that lick. And now we're into the second scale run, and this one's a little bit longer than the first. A lot of the same techniques in this one as we'd had in the first one. Bends and pull-offs, and you know, pulling off to an open string is kind of a neat little trick that he does here, but nothing else fancy in this. Same as the first one. String skip, maybe a little rake if you like, you know, or you can skip the rake, whatever. I don't know if it's even in there. So now, this is exactly the same as the first one, except you're jumping into, jumping down to the high E string, the 5th fret, a little bit quicker. But it changes right there when you get up. Instead of doing this, instead of going to the F, now we're going to go to the E note at the 7th fret. And then we're going to go down to the 5, onto the 7 of the D, down to the 5th fret of the G string, up to the 7 of the D, and back to the 5 of the G string for a double hit. And then you're going to pull it off to the open G. And then you're back down here to the 5 of the high E again, starting the scale run again. Into that lick. So it's pretty much the same, except we got a double pull off now on the D string. Picking the first 4 notes. And then landing on that F again. So that whole lick at a nice relaxed pace. And that's it for that lick. So let's move on to the next one. So here we're dealing with some slides and pull-offs and hammer-ons and bends and a pre-bend in this one as well. So we're sliding into 12, and those slides, you want to get those slides right to the fret you need to get it to every single time. And now we're going to slide into 12, ride down the 10s of the D and the G, and then you're going to pull off 12 to 10 of the D, and then grab the 12 of the A again. Now you're going to go back down to 10, grab the 12 and slide it into 14 of the D. Down to 12 of the G, back to 14 of the D. And then you're going to pick 3 notes after you've already picked that. 12, 14 of the G, and then 13 of the B. So like the last 5 notes there are all picked. And then when he hits that note there, that B note there, he kills that note. And then he's going to grab the 15th fret of the B string, give that a full step bend, and then he's going to pick it again while he's got it up there and release it. And this one's tricky because he's playing it quickly. Off to 13. And then back to 15, back to 13. On to 15 of the high E for a full step bend. Release it, pick it. Off to the F note again at the 13th fret. Another bend at 15, off to 13. and then up to 14 of the G to kind of finish that lick. Picking every one of these notes. I'm nailing every one of them with a downstroke. All right, so let's just review that lick at a nice relaxed pace before moving on. One more time. Now, let's move on to lick number 5. All right, and now we're into this rather famous little section of the solo. I don't know if I did those enough times, or maybe 1 or 2 times too many, but let's get that under our belt first before we speed it up. So we're down picking 13 of the B onto 15, bend it, release it, and then pull it off to 13 again. And then downstroke on the 14 of the G string. Now, when you go back to the 13, so this is the beginning, you want to upstroke that 13 before starting again, and then you can get the whole thing rolling. Start the very first one coming off the G with the downstroke. Now switch to upstrokes. Start slow, work your speed up with it. Now, that little lick, that is a great little lick to add and to play with, you know. You can do double hits on the bend, kind of like this. Don't do double hits in this solo, you'll ruin it. But, you know, if you're using this little lick in your own playing, you know, you can fancy it up by doing little double hits. Or triple hits. You know, lots of fun to play with that little lick. All right, so now we're grabbing the 15th fret of the high E and giving that a nice big full step bend leading into this. And so we're bending that, and then we're doing a little trill, a little slow trill from 12 to 15 back to 12. And then we're going to pull off 15 to 13 of the B, up to 14 of the G. And now we're going to start picking all of the remaining notes. 13 to 15, back to 13, up to 14 of the G. And then back to 13. I hit every one of those with a down pick. And now we're going to grab 15, give it a full step bend. Catch 15 on the high E with your pinky. And then another, while you've got that up, you're going to pick it and release it. Pull it off to 13 and then grab 14 to finish the lick. So we've got a little pre-bend work going on there. So that whole lick at a nice relaxed pace. And that's it for that lick. So we're grabbing, now we're in a different position, which is kind of nice. It's the octave position. It's still position 1 of the pentatonic, but now we're an octave higher at the 17th fret. We're bending 19 of the G string, full step bend, catching 20 of the B with our ring finger, down to 17 of the high E, and then back to 20 of the B. And then we're into that. Bend at 19, releasing off to 17, grabbing 19 of the D. And then rolling, something different here, rolling down the 17s back to the G string. And then back to 17, and then back onto 19 for a full step bend. And he's giving that bend vibrato as well. All right, so that lick at a nice relaxed pace. So we're grabbing 10, and like we said, we got a step and a half bends here to deal with. 10 of the B string, up a step and a half, up to that note. And then you're going to bend it again. You're going to release it and then bend it again. Pick the note when you get it back to the natural note. And then off to 8, back onto 10. And then back to 8 and slide it into 10. And that there's a little bit of dynamics at play here, because that slide into 10 is a little bit quieter than the rest of that. And I think he may be palm muting a couple of notes here as well. Do you hear that little palm mute in there? I think that's in there. And then he slides into 10. And then we're into the final 2 licks. So that, now we're into a 2-step bend, and we're on the 6th fret of the B string. We got to get that all the way up to that note. Nice, slow 2-step bend. And picking every single one of those notes after the bend. I went a little too high that time, I think. So we're going 6-5 of the B, 7-5 twice of the G, back onto 7, back down to 5 of the B, and then 7 to 5 of the G, and then on to 7 of the D to finish the lick. And that's that lick. So, from the top. Give that some vibrato as well, that note. You can even palm mute those notes, because you are picking every one. And then we're into the final. And that's, we're dealing with speed pull-offs, basically, with this one. We're barring the 17th fret of the B string on the B and the E, downstroke on the B string at the 17th fret, pulling off 20 to 17 on the upstroke, and then repeat. And then finally grabbing that 20 of the high E and giving it a full step bend. And then he kills the note right at the end there. And that's it. That's a walkthrough of that one. And let's take it from the top at a nice slow pace, the whole solo, and then we'll be done. And that, my friends, is a walkthrough in how you play the solo to Stairway to Heaven. I hope you found that informative and helpful if you were looking to learn this and some of the techniques involved in it. It was fun picking it apart for you. Anyway, I hope you're well out there in your little guitar corner of the world. Please drop me a subscribe if you haven't done that already. Hit that little notification bell so you know when I upload something new. And you guys take care of yourselves and those around you. Cheers.